And I don't know anyone else in this world that doesn't get excited to talk about money. So we're going to get to that. I'm a little curious though. A person with a last name that's got 3 E's in it like that tells me you're fancy and you're doing too much.
Oh gosh.
Where does the last name Greene with all those E's come from?
Well, from my dad.
Is there anything better than a trip getting ready?
Nope.
For a long journey where our podcast released a new app and searching for a fade fiend, new fixation. Giving this a subscribe is the same sensation. Started with the day ones, they gave us fuel to support the season. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here for a reason. Notification bells, text some friends, all to let you know. Check your Bluetooth, connect, talking wisdom I know.
Welcome in, everyone. Episode 215, Dallas on the Green, with our guest, Carlynn Greene. Carlynn, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, and you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. I'm excited. I get to talk to someone, can talk to me about dollars. And I don't know anyone else in this world that doesn't get excited to talk about money. So we're going to get to that. I'm a little curious though. A person with a last name that's got 3 E's in it like that tells me you're fancy and you're doing too much.
Oh gosh.
Where does the last name Greene with all those E's come from?
Well, from my dad's side of the family, and probably has to do with, slavery and all that, inheriting that name. So
Yeah, well, you don't see it every day. Not with that extra E at the end.
yeah, it's a bit different.
Yeah. And then, listeners, you guys have already seen the title, so I got to get her. Carlynn with 2 N's. That's not that common of a name either, because I'm sure you get a lot of Carlynn, Caroline. What? I know we butcher it, but is there a story about the first name?
Yes. So I was actually named after my grandmother, whose name is Carlynn. And so they just wanted to make my name a bit different. So it's called Carlynn instead. But of course, people commonly mispronounce my name, and instead they'll say Carolyn. So I'm used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Apologies for those of us who read too fast. I knew it. And even I had a brief moment there. I was like, oh, nope, Carlynn. So let's see if I can keep it together all the way throughout. So Carlynn, one of the first things I am so interested to talk about is you wrote a book. Let's start there. I've had authors on, but you look like the youngest author. Did you write it last year in homeroom before you graduated high school? What the heck?
So I actually have several books. I have 4 books out, but my very first one, that is titled The Scholarship Algorithm. I wrote that back in 2020. And so basically it gives my step-by-step strategies on how I was able to win 30 scholarships between undergrad and graduate school, and how I've helped other students since 2017 win millions and graduate debt-free as well.
Oh, she's about to be our new best friend. We'll have season 2 starting here. But something tells me we're going to be finishing season 1 with perhaps the most important and popular guest. All right, a little bit about it. So you have 4 published books. And so that's going to help students with financial aid, as well as you're also helping with college admissions and also career advice. This sounds like a one-stop shop. What we need some names of books. I want my listeners to get distracted, go over to some outlets, find out where these books are. Please fill us in.
Yes. So my other books are titled Studies and Scholarships Abroad. So that's for students who are like international students who want to study abroad, or perhaps are non-citizens studying within the U.S. My other book is called Disabled Debt-Free Degree. So that book is for students who have health conditions, disabilities. There's a lot of lesser known financial aid specifically for them, as well as college admissions advice relating to them. And then finally, my other book is called School Code. So that goes more into detail about how to excel academically, as well as college admissions and getting a job upon graduation.
Your first book, The Scholarship Algorithm. I need to know, what was your muse? I'm going to guess here. You're some rich girl, inherited like millions of dollars in a trust fund, but you look down at us lowly friends of yours in college and you realize, oh, Donato, you're working at McDonald's. Your car keeps breaking down. You're so poor. Let me help you out. And then you started doing some research. How close am I?
Not that close at all. So basically, what inspired me to start this whole all the content that I do in my overall business with helping students win scholarships and other forms of financial aid was because of my experience with winning a lot myself. So I started out applying back in high school, and I even won like 10 plus scholarships my junior and senior year of college. So it's never too late to still apply. And so as a result of winning all these scholarships, I just really wanted to give people a step-by-step process on how to go about this, because it took me basically years of trial and error to finally figure out exactly what works, what can drastically increase your chances of winning. So I just wanted to make the information more accessible to others.
Let's say I already have a book or heard of a book. What makes yours different?
There's various other scholarship books out there that you can find on Amazon, but for the most part, those are like scholarship databases of where they just list a whole bunch of scholarships that you can apply for. However, there are already free search engines online for finding scholarships, and my top 3 that I recommend using are Going Merry, scholarships.com, as well as bold.org. So it doesn't necessarily make sense to buy a book that just lists out scholarships, but it's more important, I would argue, to consider a book that talks about the strategies to win. It's kind of like the quote, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So my goal with this is to teach people how to win. And the cool thing about learning my strategies is that not only can it help with scholarships, but other types of competitive applications, whether that's college admissions, if you're trying to get grants for like a nonprofit or business, internship applications, and so forth. So it's helped me in so many different ways.
That's good to know. You sound pretty flexible. I may read it and not comprehend a lot there. I may need some individualized attention. Do you help with that?
Yes. So I have various personalized services. So I do one-on-one calls, whether that's like for 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I even edit essays, review applications. And also there's interview coaching, because some scholarships have an interview phase. So we do like a mock interview to give you an idea of what questions would be asked. And then I'll give feedback on how to better construct or better convey your message within that interview.
I know a lot of people. I've done some, I've worked for a few Fortune 500 companies, and I've done some hiring and firing, and the hiring, that part. Some people don't do a good job of interviewing.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure 2024, us coming out of COVID, you have adapted to giving it online, but are there in-person opportunities? Because I've been in those rooms and I see some people have little quirks, a tapping of the foot or running their fingers across the table or twitching. And some of those tells you can only pick up in person. Are you open to that?
So are you asking, are my services also in person?
Yeah.
So for the most part, no, but I do speaking engagements. So sometimes certain organizations will hire me to speak at their events, like conferences, or even schools will hire me to speak to their students. So that's what I do in terms of in-person engagements.
Oh, great. When's the best time to apply for scholarships?
Yes, so it basically depends, but I would say that with this upcoming fall semester, that's when a lot of those bigger scholarships have deadlines, like the full rides, the ones that give out $10,000 or more. But even during the summer right now, it's a great time to apply for scholarships, because a lot of times people are too preoccupied with summer break and they're not really worried about academics and all that. And so in turn, it could be somewhat less competitive. But of course, there's scholarships due throughout the year, so you should always be applying.
I've done some recruiting for some universities. And one of the things I found out, a lot of parents don't know a lot of things. A lot of these kids sometimes are the first time family members to go to college. Mm-hmm. And so the parents, they want to set their kids up. They want to give them good advice, but they don't know what they don't know. What's a common mistake sometimes those families make?
Yeah, so I would say a common mistake that people make when it comes to applying for scholarships is not taking the chance to at least negotiate for a scholarship that they might be 80 to 90% eligible for. So for instance, about 3 of the scholarships that I won, I was only 80 to 90% eligible. And so there was like one aspect that made me ineligible. And so because of that, I would reach out to the scholarship committee and say, hey, I'm so close to being fully eligible. Can I still apply? And they ended up letting me. And as an example of this, one of them was a $10,000 scholarship that I got for graduate school. And initially the application said for undergrad students, but I was in grad school and I ended up getting it. So
You said that there's items where you weren't eligible. You got 30 scholarship offers. If you had to go back, is there anything that you would have done different? Heck, you might have been able to get 40 or 50.
Yeah, I would have done a lot different. So I would have especially applied like basically right now. Like let's say that I was back to being a senior in high school, right? Well, that is the prime time to apply for a lot of scholarships because there's a lot more funding available for seniors who will be incoming freshmen into college. So, but back in high school, I was too preoccupied with marching band. I was a flute player. And so I went to a very competitive high school. It was called Duncanville High School, where we would always like go to state for marching band. And so that was a top priority at the time. So I only really got serious with applying for scholarships back to back my spring semester of senior year.
Oh, yeah, I get that. I mean, it's here in Texas, football is king. And we get distracted by some of these sports sometimes, just like you and your activity with band. And so, all right. So we have to make sure, parents out there, we have to make sure that we multitask. Some weekends, some off days from our activities, maybe we can draw an eye towards these scholarship processes. You would agree?
Yes,
All right.
yes. That's
good. I hear a lot of things. Sometimes you hear, oh, this person won $1 million. They got $1.7 million. What are your thoughts on that? I feel like that sounds too good to be true. It is attainable.
So it is attainable, but at the same time, often it is too good to be true because often when you hear those stories, a student is basically adding up the accumulated amount of financial aid offers they got from various schools that they apply to. And 9 times out of 10, when those students are winning $1 million or more in scholarships, they applied for a lot of schools, right? So I'm talking like 10 schools, 20, 30, or even up to 50 schools I've seen. At the end of the day, you can only really go to one specific university or college, right? And so all that other money, it won't be awarded to you. It will eventually go to someone else. And so I would say to mainly instead, if you can, prioritize applying for external scholarships, and external scholarships can be used at just about any university. So basically, the majority of the scholarships that I personally won for my own education, they were external scholarships. And so I actually got to keep the majority of my money.
You help students win. It sounds, I feel pretty confident that if I work with you, I'm feeling like we're going to get some money here. How do you go about that?
Yes, so there's a lot that goes into winning scholarships. So for one, you want to be strategic in terms of the types that you apply for. So there's different tiers when it comes to scholarships, right? There's ones that are nationally competitive, those that are at the state level, those that are specific to a certain school, as well as ones that are specific to a certain city or county. So basically, the more closer it is to you and your hometown, if you will, the more likely you are to win. So like the local scholarships. And another key aspect of winning scholarships is your scholarship essay, because a lot of students, they have great stats, right? They might be valedictorian, 4.0 GPA, perfect test scores and all that, but that doesn't always guarantee that you're going to win a lot of scholarship money. For instance, I had a student, he was the valedictorian of his high school based out here in Texas, and you would think that if you're first in your class, you automatically get a full ride scholarship, but that was not the case. And so later on, his sophomore year of college, he came across my work and bought my book, The Scholarship Algorithm, and eventually he was able to win $103,000 in scholarships that basically covered all the rest of his college, as well as going into graduate school as well.
Oh, wow, those are the success stories that we love to hear about. That's great. So I talked to some of the parents earlier, break that other wall and talk with them again. They're looking at this now. They're listening now, and they're saying, okay, but again, I didn't go to college. I don't really understand all this. What would you say to those parents that are watching this, that it seems like, man, I just thought the goal was just to get my kid to graduate high school and be eligible for college. Now, this whole money thing sounds like a headache.
Yeah, so oftentimes at high schools, there are resources available that your child can use. Like, for instance, at my old high school, we had what was called a Go Center. So they would help with college applications, filling out the FAFSA form, and even scholarships as well. So if your student's high school has something like that, I definitely recommend to use it. And of course, there's always learning from my content. There's plenty of online blog posts that talk in detail about how to win scholarships, how to go about the applications, and so forth. So there's plenty of resources out there. It's just a matter of being consistent in terms of researching these opportunities and, of course, applying to as many as possible. And to give you guys a bit of context in terms of how many I applied to. So I won 30 scholarships, but I applied for a little over 100 scholarships. So my win rate was like 30%, right? And so you have to be consistent. You have to be used to rejection. And when you are rejected, try to seek constructive criticism as to why you were rejected, so you know what to do later on down the line to improve your application for another scholarship.
Yeah, sometimes we don't do that. We get rebuffed, we hang our heads, and we just walk away. Doomed to repeat ourselves again if you don't search for the constructive criticism. Don't have the thin skin. Don't burn that bridge. Oh, you guys didn't want me? Well, you guys, I never liked you guys anyway. You weren't my number one option. You mentioned a lot of different things there. You mentioned international students. You mentioned disabled. Sounds like you can work with any type of student. I didn't have the best grades coming out of high school. I still went to college. I graduated college. But do you think that you could help someone like me?
Yes. So matter of fact, I did have, as of last year, I had a student who her GPA had fell to below a 1.0. And so eventually she came across my work and she won a little over $100,000 in scholarships as a current college student, which is a lot harder to do because, again, most of the financial aid out there is reserved for incoming freshmen, so like high school seniors, right? And also in terms of GPA, there are various scholarships out there that do not require a GPA to begin with. So for instance, on the platform bold.org, a lot of their scholarships don't really require a GPA, and all the scholarships that I give out don't require that as well.
Yeah, those are scholarships for me. And like, if you want to know about my extracurriculars, I'm the king of it. I was in church. I was teaching kung fu classes. I played some sports. I was a good, well-rounded person. I want the well-rounded scholarships, not just academics. So thanks for showing that you got a little range there. Let's keep it coming. You were telling me about different people here and there. I'd love to hear about some more testimonials. How about this? We got an HBCU here in my town in Austin, Texas, called Houston Tillotson. You got any stories about students going to HBCUs?
Oh, yes, plenty. So, for instance, I just had a student graduate and she wants to eventually pursue law school. She graduated from Howard University, one of the HBCUs. And so she ended up winning. So she ended up winning. Actually, I want you to guess, how many scholarships did she win?
Going into Howard from high school.
Yes.
Okay, so she's going to
I believe she won most of her scholarships as a current college student. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, that's still good. That still feeds into, I was going to say, one of the preeminent HBCUs. A lot of people are impressed with that. You don't try to go to Howard unless you about that business. I'm going to say 14 scholarships.
So she actually won twice as many scholarships as I did. So 60.
What?
Yeah. She beat my record.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, you know, she was with the scholarship guru. All right. Yeah. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Oh, wow. And you said you were going to teach us how to fish. Well, she found the watering hole. Fishing was good.
Oh yeah, she definitely did.
You get a fish. You get a fish.
And wow, she graduated debt-free, so I'm so proud of her.
Oh, yeah, that feels good. Wow. Something tells me you make a lot of friends. Someone, again, like me, and I wasn't valedictorian or salutatorian. I wasn't dumb. I just, didn't do a lot of homework. I was, very, very communicative in school. Just put it that way. Talked a lot. Perfect attendance. So for people like me, how could I increase my chances of winning?
So I'd say for you, you would mainly focus on scholarships that prioritize essays, as well as scholarships that have a video submission component to it, because of your personality and all that can really shine throughout your application, right? So some examples of scholarships that require a video include the Dr. Pepper Scholarship and the Taco Bell Scholarship. And both of which I've already helped multiple students win. And so with the Taco Bell Scholarship, this one can vary from like $5,000 to like $25,000. And then the and as for the Dr. Pepper Scholarship, this also varies from like $10,000 upwards to $100,000. So that student that I mentioned earlier, who was based here in Texas and was valedictorian, but still didn't get a full ride, well, he won the Dr. Pepper Scholarship back in 2020, studied my book, and he got $100,000 from that scholarship.
Oh. Okay, what about the opposite? Those good students that they're doing all the homework, they're asking for more work. The valedictorians, salutatorians, but again, first time, their parents didn't go to college, so maybe they didn't have a good guide. What about them?
So I'd say for those students, again, they can apply for those types of scholarships as well, but then also to really look into scholarships that, let's say, are more specific to their study concentration. Because I imagine if they're top of their class, they're probably already taking some courses relating to what they're wanting to study once in college. And so typically scholarships that are for specific study concentrations prefer applicants who already have some level of experience as it relates to that field. So whether that's related coursework, doing an internship, being in some sort of summer program, and so forth.
Listen, I know that there's some misconceptions out there that people have about scholarship, like, oh, you got to know somebody, or they're only looking for one type. How about, I don't have the best handwriting, so they're not going to take me. What would you say about those misconceptions?
Well, in terms of handwriting, most applications prefer for you to have like typed up applications, so they're not really wanting handwritten applications in the first place. But in terms of outside of that, other misconceptions about scholarships are mainly in regards to who exactly can win them in the first place. There's this misconception that if you come from a higher income household that you can't win scholarships, but that's not accurate. I literally had, as of 2 years ago, one of the parents, her son, who's in my scholarship program, he was able to win 10 scholarships despite their very high income based out in California. And then another misconception people have is that vast majority of people winning scholarships are Black. I often get comments in my comment section on social media saying that, oh, all the scholarships are going to Black people, none for white people. But actually, according to data out there from researchers, per capita, most scholarships are given out to white students. Yeah.
The people who are saying that have never gone to college and have never gone to financial aid themselves. Because if you look and stand in that line, you're going to look. I went to a predominantly white institution, and I had a scholarship, but I still had to go to financial aid for different meetings in the pool. I had athletic scholarship. And I'm here to tell you, everybody in that line did not look like me. And I know that there were the people that had other scholarships that they won, but trolls will always be out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they don't stop you from doing what you're trying to do, Carlynn. This is so awesome. I'm pretty excited about this. You're doing this. You're not out there trying to be the world's greatest arm wrestler, I don't think. But this is what you chose for your business. What are you hoping to achieve by having this scholarship business?
Yeah, so one of my main goals with this is basically, for one, diversifying certain career fields that are oftentimes gatekept by whether or not you have a college degree. And of course, what prevents people so often from even obtaining that is the financial component of going to college. So that's one thing. And then another thing is curbing the student loan debt crisis, especially in terms of the Black community, our community, because unfortunately we owe the most in student loan debt and have some of the lowest graduation rates as well.
Yeah, you're gonna have your work cut out for you there. Here's what I'm a little curious about. When you have your book, you have. I'd like to start with the first one because I love the name, Scholarship Algorithm. Man, I love that name. Where can your audience get it? How accessible is the book?
Yes, so my book is available on my website as well as on Amazon, Walmart, and Barnes & Noble.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Well, if we can't find it there, our eyes are closed, basically. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that there's accessibility.
But I will say this. It is available with Walmart and Target and Barnes and Noble, but it's only it only shows if you purchase it from their website. So it's not there if you were to physically show up at their grocery store or store.
A little bit about your background. Could you tell us about your background and how you became a scholarship expert? I mean, I feel like you could have just taken the money and ran, but I guess you got the itch to want to help the rest of us.
Yes. So basically, well, it tied into what I was studying in college, right? So I majored in broadcast journalism. And so in 2017, I started a YouTube channel of where I wanted to basically teach people how to emulate my results while also getting my foot into the world of broadcasting and video production and all that. And so it essentially just went hand in hand with that.
Yeah, I like that. Scholarships, financial aid. I know that's the win. I mean, I guess that's what you specialize in. Those are the two that you like
Yes.
to. But you did also say that if there are others that are interested in grants, that would be an opportunity for nonprofits. Heck, I'm in the process of trying to get that myself. So you haven't heard the last of me. What makes you feel the most rewarded of your experiences? You sound like you're pretty proud of the young lady that went to Howard. She doubled up what you accomplished. Any other rewarding experiences you'd like to share?
I'd say, well, outside of the testimonials that I get just about every single day from students and parents who have won scholarships using my resources and advice, outside of that, some of the recognition that I've been able to get. So for instance, I was in the TikTok for Black Creatives program, the LinkedIn Accelerator program, and between those two programs, I was awarded $65,000 in grants for my business. And then I even won the TikTok Creator Award, which was super cool. I honestly was not expecting to win that at all, but I walked up on stage there, gave my speech from my phone with my hand kind of shaking as well. And so having that experience was just very rewarding because there were moments that I just felt like I should stop creating this content because for the longest, it wasn't really getting much engagement, right? So I started on YouTube. And so with YouTube's algorithm at the time, and even still till today, it wasn't promoting my stuff because with how YouTube works, you have to intentionally look for that. And for a lot of people, they don't really intentionally look for scholarships, unfortunately. But with the algorithm with TikTok and Instagram, where I mainly have my content now, it instead recommends content to you as you're scrolling down your For You page. So because of that difference in their algorithm, my content was getting more exposure and helping more people along the way.
Oh, yeah. This scholarship process, as I mentioned, for some parents and students, it's intimidating. Sometimes when you're hesitant, you make mistakes. What are some common mistakes students make when applying for a scholarship? Or do we forget to? Was it when you're passing in your test? If you forget to write your name at the top, you get 0 points. What are some common mistakes we make?
So I would say one of the other common mistakes students make is simply not fulfilling all parts of the criteria for that specific application, right? So for instance, I spent hours and hours filling out an application years ago for the Doodle for Google scholarship, which I believe is about $30,000. And one of the elements of it said to attach your design, because we had to actually create a certain design as a certain type of file. But I accidentally did, at the time I didn't realize it, but I accidentally submitted that file as a different type of file. And so because of that, I had accidentally disqualified myself for that award. And so I ended up wasting so many hours of my time just because of that one error. So I would say before you ever submit an application, make sure to double, triple check that everything is right and that your application is grammatically correct as well.
Oh, man, yeah. Check, recheck, then check again. That's my motto. All right. So if I'm building the perfect scholarship application, what building blocks? What are those key elements you think I should focus on?
So I would say to first get really organized with all the common application materials for a scholarship, and to have that centralized within a Google folder, right? So you could have your letters of recommendation, resume, work portfolio, and a document that has your commonly used scholarship essay all organized in one centralized document, and even having subheaders to organize them by word count limits, because often with scholarship applications, they have different word count limits. So the first section of your header could be the 250 word version, then the 500 word version, 750 word, just so you can easily copy and paste that for other applications and save yourself a lot of time.
I like that. Again, this process is new to us, and this is the oldest kid. Maybe we went to college, husband and wife, but we've been out of college for 23 years. You know, we feel like a whole generation has passed. You know, I'm pretty sure that we're not going to be so sure that we know what scholarship's going to fit our kids' profile or their goals. How do we navigate that?
So I would say to first take the time to just go through various types of scholarships that are out there. So for instance, there's scholarships for those with disabilities, as I mentioned earlier, those based off of merit, athletic talent, certain artistic abilities, just basically getting a feel for all the different types of scholarships out there, and then experimenting with those different types to see which you are more likely to win. Seeing results within certain types of categories of scholarships, that should primarily be your focus moving forward.
All right. I feel like I need to see like a timeline. What's the typical timeline for applying for scholarships looking like? Where I live, school starts tomorrow for everybody. So do I start looking now? Should I have started looking over the summer going into my senior year of high school?
Yeah, it definitely would have been recommended to look earlier, so around this summer, because of course the first couple of months going into your senior year of high school can be very hectic. And so if you can already have the research process out of the way, or even let's say that the student doesn't have time to do that, well, you as a parent can go in and do that for them, and then their role would just be to submit the applications.
Yeah. Well, I plan to have these parents helping me out. I know our young listeners, that's what they're saying. Oh yeah, my mom and dad, they're going to help me. Yeah, you definitely don't try to do this all on your own. Take it from the scholarship guru. It sounds like a team effort here. You were telling someone like me, I probably should do a compelling scholarship essay. They don't want to know about my grades. They don't need to know about my grades. What could you tell me? What advice do you have for someone that's trying to do that?
Yes, so I would say one thing that you could consider implementing within your writing is scarcity and urgency, which is often used in marketing practices. So basically with scarcity, you would be communicating as to why you specifically are needed in that field, perhaps more than others. And then with urgency, you would be communicating in terms of how you are needed now. And so I oftentimes use this And so I oftentimes use this when I am editing student scholarship essays. And for whatever reason, the vast majority of essays I edit are from nursing students. Perhaps some nursing school recommended my services. I don't know, but like 70% of them are nursing students. And as a result of mainly this strategy, I've helped a lot of students win scholarships after editing their essays. Like for instance, when it comes to nursing school or medical school, right? Oftentimes people already have excellent stats, right? And so you need something else to stand out against this competition. And so that's where the essay comes into place, as well as being able to communicate urgency and scarcity.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I'm pretty well connected. You know, people know me. I told you I did a lot of extracurriculars, right? Because of that, I expect I would have some pretty good recommendation letters. There's got to be some value in that. And I was just kind of curious. Maybe I'm as a student, I'm a rare jewel. How can students ensure that they get strong recommendation letters?
Yes. So in terms of letters of recommendation here, I highly recommend to first get acquainted with your teachers, with your professors as soon as possible. Try to go to their office hours and engage with them as much as you can. And then once you feel that you have them pretty comfortable, as well as they have a pretty good understanding of your work ethic and character, then you can go in with asking, hey, can you write me a letter of recommendation? And once they do, also ask for a copy of that letter, as well as if you have their permission to modify it according to your new audience when you're applying for a whole bunch of other scholarships. Because the last thing you want to do is constantly reach out to them over and over again, asking if they can submit another letter on your behalf or write a whole new letter again and again. So it helps to streamline that process a bit more. And in terms of who these letters of recommendations can come from, so for instance, there's like teachers, professors, employers, coworkers, and it could even come from a fellow classmate. So one of my strongest of letters of recommendation back when I was applying to scholarships junior and senior year of high school was from a classmate who at the time was a graduate student. And so within her letter, she basically communicated how I went above and beyond on the final project we did together, which was essentially us creating our own original show. And she said, working together with me felt like she was working on the Oprah Winfrey show, which is a huge, huge compliment. And her letter was honestly the strongest out of all three of the letters that I would commonly use for my application.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, any mention of Oprah sounds like a game winner. So we used me as an example. I told you, I, as a student, I had a lot of extracurricular involvement. You sound pretty confident. I think that it could play an integral role in the scholarship process for me, for those of us who have those extracurriculars.
Yes, so definitely make sure to communicate that within your application, but then also go into how it helps you in terms of like developing your character or perhaps with those certain extracurriculars or even like volunteer hours, how you were able to uniquely contribute to your community. So being able to communicate that as well can really help.
Yeah, I really like that. You're making me feel very confident. I may have to. What degrees are out there for me to chase right now? I mean, you and me, you're going to help me with a grant to help the podcast. We're going to go get some more degrees to put on my wall. And so, yeah, you're a one-stop shop for me. We're going to be working together here. All right. What should students do? I want to talk some strategies and tips here specifically. What should a student do if they are struggling to find scholarships that match their qualifications? I know I gave mine. Let's just say I didn't really do much when I was in school. I didn't have all the extracurriculars as Donato, and I'm not salutatorian, valedictorian. Mm-hmm. I'm middle of the road in everything. Nobody's gonna touch me, right?
Yeah, so if that is the case, part of that would tie back into the tip that I mentioned earlier about trying to negotiate to be eligible for scholarships, because if you're not coming across enough scholarships that you're fully eligible for, at least you can at least. And so the other thing is, let's say that scholarships just doesn't end up working out for you, right? Because unfortunately, not every single student is going to win. That's just how the statistics of this all works. So there's other ways to go about seeking help in terms of funding your education. So for instance, my junior and senior year of college, I was an RA, a resident assistant at my university. And at my school, that fully paid for my housing, my meal plan. It gave a monthly stipend and all these other benefits. And I was honestly only working like 15% of the time. And that allowed me a lot of time to also work on the job. And so that's an excellent outlet if, like, let's say your tuition is already fully covered, you have a full tuition, because let's say you already have a full tuition scholarship, right? But you only need your housing and meals to be covered, then that job can be very helpful.
What are some scholarships that students often overlook?
Often overlooked. Let me think here.
I think there's some hidden gems out there, some little diamonds in the rough, if you will. And I feel pretty confident that there's the big ones, you know, like the Ford Motor Company or the Dodge, you know, the big companies. But there's got to be a few that people overlook.
I would say some that people overlook would be from Greek life organizations. Many people don't realize this, but there are various Greek life organizations that not only give out scholarships, but you can apply to them even if you are not a member of them. So for instance, my senior year of high school, I won a scholarship from a local fraternity out here in Dallas. And then my senior year of college, I won at the national level a scholarship from the AKA sorority. And I'm not a member of either one of those Greek life organizations and was still able to win. So I definitely recommend to look into those areas as well.
Let me see. Where is it? Did the organization that gave you a scholarship start with a K?
Yeah, the Kappas.
Yeah, check that out. Oh. All right. That's what we do. Yes, I am. And,
gosh.
Yeah, I got my cane back there. And then of course my brick. Oh yeah, all right. That's what we do. We see talent out there, helping a young lady achieve her dreams. So proud of my brothers out there. Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Yo. So how can students effectively manage their time when applying for multiple scholarships? Like we were talking earlier about multitasking, you know, doing a bunch of things at once. I'm still in my extracurriculars, you know, I'm still trying to enjoy senior year of high school. You got any tips to help us juggle it all, if you will?
Yes, so there are actually certain platforms, some of which I already mentioned earlier in this interview, that have a function that enables you to bulk apply for scholarships that have similar criteria. So for instance, with goingmerry.com, which is spelled GOINGMERRY, when you download their app, there's also an ability to bulk apply for a lot of scholarships. And then outside of that, let's see. And then outside of that, again, it just ties into having other people helping you with this process. So like your parents or even your siblings, if they're willing to help, if you have siblings, that is, basically try to approach this process as a community effort, and then it will make it a lot more feasible in the end.
I like that. Any specific strategies that you got for winning scholarships, if depending on a particular field of study that you want, or demographics, anything there?
Yes. So from like professional organizations, a lot of the scholarships that I got my junior, senior year and going into graduate school were from professional organizations relating to what I was studying, which was broadcast journalism, media arts, and all that. And so this is an excellent way to find these scholarships. And not only should you be applying for them at the national level, but more importantly, you're more likely to win those same types of scholarships that are at the state and city level.
Yeah. Have you noticed any recent trends or changes in the scholarship landscape?
I would say the use of AI. Yes. So a lot of students are now using like AI to write their essays for scholarships, or I mean, AI has always been a part of the scholarship process. Like even with these search engines to help you with finding scholarships, they use AI technology to better match you based off of your background. And
Yeah.
even with the software I mentioned earlier, well, did I mention this earlier? But basically, this software that I personally used back when I was applying for scholarships is called Grammarly, and so with that software, it edits a lot of your grammatical mistakes within your writing, and that uses AI technology. So but students are using AI to just basically write word for word their essays now.
Yeah.
And so as a result, you might be seeing a lot more scholarships instead requiring, or on top of an essay, they'll require a video submission as well.
Personal insights from you. Like what's the most important piece of advice that you, scholarship guru, would give to a student starting their scholarship search?
I would say to try and emulate exactly what those students who won millions and millions of dollars in scholarships did. So applying for a lot of schools, right? And then you would likely increase your chances by a lot of being offered at least one or several full ride scholarships. And then like,
Yeah.
let's say that your top choice school only offers because so let's say that your top, oh my gosh. So let's say that your top, oh my gosh, I can't talk. I am so sorry. So let's say that your top choice school offers to cover 50% of your overall cost of attendance, right? But school B instead offers to fully cover everything. So in that case, you could potentially negotiate for school A or school B, the school that was your top choice, to potentially match their offer, and thus both would be a full ride scholarship offer.
Yeah, I like that. Can you remember anyone that had some significant obstacles that they had to overcome in winning scholarships, and then they did?
I would say mainly the main obstacle people have when it comes to winning scholarships is being able to properly communicate their message within their essay. Because oftentimes there's this misconception, even with college admission essays, that in order to win, in order to get into your dream school, that you have to trauma dump. And I will say that with the very first scholarship I won, I did trauma dump. But then I was not comfortable sharing that part of my background, my story over and over again. So I had to drastically change my writing, right? And even by doing so, I was still able to win 29 other scholarships. So definitely do not feel as if that's the only way. And of course, if you need help with constructing your scholarship essay, I have various videos on my YouTube channel where I even like read word for word my winning essays that got me scholarships. Like for instance, I got a scholarship from Floyd Mayweather. He has a foundation and they were giving out a scholarship for women in media. And I also got a scholarship from Future, the famous rapper, because he was giving out a scholarship for students in Austin at his concert.
Wow. What do you think the future holds for scholarships and financial aid?
I would hope for there to be more scholarships out there, especially with the cost of attendance to attend college increasing every single year. It's absolutely insane. So I hope that more insanely rich people create scholarships and for various types of students so that we could potentially curb the existing student loan debt crisis.
Are there any other items that you think that you would like our listeners to know? Of course, they're going to follow up with you. We're gonna get your social media so that we can pass that along here. And then I'll also, don't worry, everyone, I'll have it in the description below if you don't catch it when she says it. Any last minute tidbits before we wrap it up?
Let me take a moment to think here. What have I not yet said?
If there's a mantra or a little tidbit of motivation you want to give us when we realize, school starts in 2 weeks for me and I haven't started anything yet, and I know I'm going to need the money.
Yes. So I would say just know that what's meant for you will eventually come to you. Um, so, for instance, one of the scholarships that I was awarded, but then ended up getting denied, and that was only because of a technical error. Like I had submitted on time, and I have the timestamps, I have the timestamp proof and everything that I accepted the award. But for whatever reason, their email system on their end did not see that I said that. And so they ended up giving that scholarship to someone else. And so with that scholarship, it came with a component of where I had to work like X amount of hours in order to maintain my award. And so I was devastated by that, but literally the very next day, that was when I was awarded. That was when I was awarded that other $10,000 scholarship I talked about for graduate school. And with that scholarship, it didn't require me to work X amount of hours. So I ended up getting the better end of the stick, if you will, with that one. And a final tip here when it comes to scholarships, make sure to check your spam folder on your email. I've had 2 or even 3 scholarships accidentally filter to there, or even like the promotions tab on my Gmail. And so you don't want to miss out on that, because a lot of scholarships, they'll give you X amount of days to accept the offer. But if you don't, they'll just go ahead and give the money to someone else.
How can we find you on social media if anyone wants to gain more info, have a little back and forth?
Yes, so I am on various platforms. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, but primarily now, because their algorithm is treating me better, I'm mostly on Instagram. And so my username for Instagram is Carly100, Carle 100. And then my usernames for TikTok and Instagram is ESP Daniela.
Carlynn, Greene, thank you for your time today. And most importantly, thank you for talking with Donato.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.